Now, if only I could speak in complete sentences without just like occasionally going into blue screen mode and losing the thread entirely, I wouldn't have to edit anything. Cast Iron Balls, a podcast about sports, because without sports as a useful metaphor and framing device, we'd be left contemplating the actual nature of this awful reality, and who the hell wants to do that? My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
Bad.
Lori's bad. Tonight is Thursday, September 26th, 2024. Don't hold back, Laura. What the fuck's wrong?
I mean,
she's just distracted by her jigsaw puzzle.
No. I'm not just distracted. The jigsaw puzzle is the good thing going on.
You know, we got little raised voices in the last podcast. People are going to think that there are some marital issues if you're not careful.
Not in the podcast of this show.
The podcast.
See, I'm not good. It's just been rough.
Lori is not looking forward to this weekend's college football action.
This is going to be a lot of fun. What are you talking about?
We'll get into that later, in short order, no doubt.
I did someone's hair nonstop for an hour and 45 minutes today, and then they waited for another hour and 15 minutes, and then I did their hair again for another hour and 15 minutes.
You should consider charging people with that amount of hair
very expensive
by volume.
It is.
Is it? Well, that's good.
Sort of. Also, the thunder last night, my throat hurts. I'm just not good.
Man, there was a thunderclap last night, and it was a combo, rather sudden and out of nowhere thunderclap that rolled right into one of those super loud rolling thunder things where it was because they don't always come together. Sometimes you get the clap and you're done, but then sometimes you get the rumbly thunder that comes after that. This happened all at once. It was clap and then big violent rolling thunder. It was fucking intense.
And then nothing after that. It was its last gasp, and it made me feel like maybe it wasn't thunder.
I mean, it was definitely thunder. Lori freaked the fuck out, though.
Was this in the middle of the night?
And then I stayed awake for 2 hours, thinking about every bad decision I've ever made and everything that could possibly go wrong, including Georgia losing to Alabama and that inevitability.
It won't stop fucking raining around here, and it sucks ass for my baseball season.
You guys are getting rain up there? Because, down here in Atlanta...
Not the same rain as you.
Okay. So I'm down here in Atlanta. They postponed some of the Braves games yesterday and tonight. They're going to try to make this weekend's action go. But I was just thinking, here in Atlanta, the lights here in my apartment building have been flickering a bit. I think I'll be able to survive this recording. But overnight, the weather should reach us by dawn or in the morning. And, President Jimmy Carter lives in the path of this storm. I was thinking about old man Jimmy Carter. This is going to be a little tricky for him. I mean, he's going to get a little of this hurricane action. And
it's not hurricane weather, though. By the time it makes it to Plains, Georgia, it's just heavy thunderstorms, right? Or heavy rain?
So it's hitting the Tallahassee area as a 4, and it's going to quickly go down to a 1. But it'll be a 1 by the time it hits Albany and Plains and Columbus. It's not it. By the time it gets to Atlanta, it'll be nothing. But he's not that far from where the action is. So I'm just wondering if
he's Jimmy Carter. He's fine.
I guess normal things, but not this. This,
Abe, you seem to be rooting for Hurricane Helene.
He's not going to die from a hurricane.
Abe just knows there's a big birthday coming up on October the 1st, and he. I'm not going to say that. I mean, obviously, you've been proven wrong in your predictions about Jimmy Carter's demise, and you've refrained from at least outwardly rooting for or predicting the former president's death. But I think there's something about that 100 milestone that you're sort of, you feel like
Taking
you're
it
up against.
personally.
Like if he makes it to 100, at
You
that
lose.
point, he's simply rubbing it in your eye.
Yeah.
Like surviving 2022 was one thing, but to hang on until the century mark is just Jimmy
That's
Carter. He's rubbing his diapered fingers into your eye. Jimmy is just giving you pink eye.
You know what's funny about, speaking of rubbing it in, Google Photos and the Apple version of Photos will sometimes have this feature where, like, memories. You remember this, series of pictures you took a long time ago? And I forgot this, but 6 years ago, I was, like, at a Falcons game, and they did a happy 94th birthday Jimmy Carter thing. I wonder if that's the genesis of my, like, this guy's not going to make to 100. I think I probably looked over to somebody. He's like, 94 is a good number. He's not getting to triple digits. I think it started then, and I was reminded of that earlier this month. But I'm not in any way rooting for any sort of death. How dare you?
That occurs
You
to me.
should be. He's gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna be right eventually. You might as well keep rooting for it. It sort of puts me in mind. I had thought before about what because Google Photos has always given me the, hey, remember how much you love your kids? Here's an
Remember
album.
when your kids were cute?
all
Now
his-
they're
yeah.
old.
We're like, here are all of the photos of Lori and Calvin together, because there's only like 14 of them. But,
Yeah, he
but
doesn't take pictures.
Here they all are. Maybe take some more pictures, Bob, you fucking dumbass. Life is fleeting, childhood especially. So maybe consider documenting the lives of the people you love most in the world. You fucking moron.
I think are picture takers, like, born? Like, because there are some
Yeah.
of my friends that take pictures, like, constantly, and even before
I
they
have a
have
theory
kids.
that
Like,
it's people who don't remember things.
but like, I should be like a very good candidate for that, because I don't remember anything, and I never like, when I'm in the moment, I never think like I should take a picture of this. I'm like, I'm gonna remember. It's like,
I don't know. You're very in the moment
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yeah, and I'm always
studying the humans.
I feel like I'm in the moment too. I know Lori doesn't probably think that I'm in the moment, but I'm mostly existing in the moment.
You're
And
existing in the moment somewhere else.
Sure, occasionally it is in the moment, just elsewhere. But I never think, oh, we should definitely, like, and even when I get in my head, like, just take one picture every time someone comes to visit. Like, make sure
we tried to do that.
Make sure you get one, and I think I've accomplished that feat like 2 times. I'm very
we
bad at
stopped
it.
doing that.
But
Let's talk about sports.
Real quick, before the sports, I was going to say, I've had the thought before that what Google Photos should be feeding me is if they really want to get me thinking about the recent past, the last, however long I've had Google, they should send me my screenshots on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Rather than, because it's the screenshots that is actually what's sort of cataloging.
The phone is your best friend.
Right. It's the screenshots are what's cataloging my experience of the world at this point, because it's like anytime I see something that's stupid or awesome, it gets a screenshot. I don't always go back and even look at it necessarily. I used to use it as a show prep thing where I could screenshot stuff and then just go through my screenshots for the week to remember what I wanted to talk about. But I'm not even that particular about it. And sometimes I just screenshot it, like thinking, okay, I'll text this to Abe, and then I just never do. Or I screenshot something, I'm like, I'm going to come up with something clever to say and send this to Lori, and I'm fucking doing something else.
Because you don't live in the moment.
Right.
Because you're not in the moment.
I'm too much in the moment. I need to figure out a good joke, but then I'm on to the next thing, and it's too late.
The one complicating factor is these robot photo things, the features that exist. They're able to, like, group together pictures, like, oh, this face is the same, so, like, you can.
Yeah.
It'll group it by picture, or it'll group it by, like, trip. Like, oh, you were in Colorado. Here are a bunch of pictures from Colorado.
Well, that's easy because it's
with
tagged.
screenshots, it can't really do a good job at grouping, right? Like, if you take screenshots, I haven't seen it group it in any sort of sensible way.
It doesn't group them, but it does make them very easily searchable, which is the benefit of it. Like, at least you can search it, even though it's not smart enough to put them together on their own. Anyway, let's move on. Let's open up the WGAS NewsBag Sports Edition. It's time for Who Gives a Shit News Sports. I wanted to talk briefly about, and really everything should be briefly, but I want to talk about UNLV quarterback who has announced a decision to quit the team or take a redshirt year over a dispute about his NIL deal, or what he believed to have been an NIL deal, but in fact was not. This is the quarterback for UNLV. He had spent, I think, 4 full years at Holy Cross, which to my mind means that he was trying to Rudy himself onto the Notre Dame team, but never never quite Rudied hard enough. But I don't know that. That's just what my brain did when I found out he went to Holy Cross for 4 years. His name is Matthew Sluka. You probably, if you follow college football closely at all, you probably heard his name a couple times this season because they were 3-0 and looking pretty good, trying to make a name for themselves here in the playoff era. He says his dad and he and his agent claim that they were promised $100,000 in name, image, and likeness payments, and then they did not get it. All of the money that they've received was $3,000, which his agent posted about as a relocation fee or something, and then there has been no further money forthcoming. So, Abe, who's at fault here? There's some dirtiness going on, and does this portend the end of an era? Is this the first big awful domino to fall in the NIL era? Are we going to see a lot more of this moving forward?
I think until they come up with a better framework, I think we'll see more of this. The way that the story is playing out is it sounds like there was some sort of verbal agreement for some amount of money, and as the expression goes, like a verbal agreement isn't worth the paper it's written on. And so, like, when
you need to get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
Leads are weak.
The leads are weak. Fucking leads are weak. You're weak. I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
Fuck you. That's my name. You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name. And your name is you're wanting. And you can't play in the man's game. You can't close them. Then go home and tell your wife your troubles. Because only one thing counts in this life. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted. You hear me, you fucking faggots?
Right. And so the problem is when you have a verbal agreement, and there was some article I was reading where sometimes when these collectives promise money, they don't have the money yet. They will promise money they don't have, and then they'll try to generate the funds down the road, and if they come up short, it's on the player. And I don't know what exactly happened. Maybe like in a week things will settle because like both sides are now saying different things. Like we never promised this guy this money.
The Sluka family and his agent have said that this was a verbal thing spoken by the offensive coordinator. That there was, we're going to need $100,000, and the offensive coordinator was like, "Oh yeah, $100,000 is no problem. I don't see any problem there. Don't worry about that." Whereas the only thing that had actually been promised because of course it's a third party thing. It's sort of like in politics where you have these super PACs, which are officially not affiliated with the campaign, but work very closely with the campaign. And it's sort of understood that there's a lot of communication between the two. So it's like these booster clubs that have now become NIL booster clubs, basically. And they are the ones who are supposed to be signing these contracts with these players. And so the only thing that he had signed was this $3,000, and he got the $3,000. And then the promise that was allegedly made, the commitment allegedly made by the offensive coordinator was for $100,000 more, and they never got that in writing. And he showed up to school and played the first month of the season and went 3-0. And now he's saying, "Give me my money, or I'm not playing anymore." Right. And I mean, to me, if anyone is at fault here, it's the agent and the father and the kid for failing to get it in writing and signing on the line which is dotted. I don't blame UNLV because, I mean, even if the coach had intimated that, like, yeah, I'm sure we can work something out, we'll get you some more money. Like, those are the sorts of things that you say at the moment that you're trying to sign your quarterback.
But then you should do it.
You should do it, but like you can't. I don't know. Like, to me, you can't be too mad about the fact that this, as Abe was saying, it's a verbal agreement worth the paper it's written on. It's not worth anything.
Right.
And what is the end here for Sluka? It's like he's not a great quarterback. He's a perfectly serviceable quarterback. He's not going to end up in a better situation on a top 25 team that's undefeated after this.
What if he's a man of principle? You know, I know this is
he's a man of principle.
This is
college
like
football, Abe.
This is
That's what it sounds like, though. It sounds like he's being a money and fucking good for him. Whatever.
This is the cast iron balls, and we don't do the non-sport stuff. But like the 10 years ago, the Secret Service advanced team was in Colombia, and they solicited some prostitutes, and the prostitutes changed the terms of the agreement. They wanted more money, and the Secret Service agents stuck to their guns.
First of all, I don't as a patriotic American, and fundamentally truly an institutionalist, I do not appreciate that you are saying that the Secret Service attempted to procure the services of some prostitutes.
Secret Service of prostitutes. What?
There were agents
It was a
who
secret.
happened to be Secret Service agents.
No, it was a secret. They're keeping it secret service.
Yeah, yeah. But they had agreed to a certain amount, and then they said we want more because they could extract more money, and they stuck to their guns. It ruined. They were fired for it. So principles are not good for like preserving your job. Like it's not good for this guy either. But like some people are principled. I would have just been like, all right, fine, I'll pay you more, so I'll keep it under the radar, and I can continue to work. So I think for this quarterback, his prospects, like he's not going to be an NFL caliber talent, right? So this $100,000, if it is true, and it has to be true, right? Like why would it doesn't make any sense like for that not to be true for him to just pull from continuing to play, like it's a bad look. So like there must have been some sort of breach of
either agreement. That or it was a bluff that was called, and then they felt like they had to fucking put their cards down anyway. Like they just had to walk away from the table after having their bluff called, rather than saying, okay, I guess we'll stick around and play.
Right, but like initially, like one of the stories that came out to kind of like tarnish the reputation of the quarterback was that because of the strong start, the 3-0 start, they were trying to alter the deal. Right. To even more, like, hey, $100,000 was yesterday's price. Today's price is, more. And I don't know if that's what happened. It's not clear. But the problem going forward, though, will be like schools like UNLV, they can't afford this sort of a story because your word is no good. Like I would imagine, like an Alabama or a Georgia.
This is good for everyone. Everything needs to be in writing. And that way, once it's in writing, you cannot. And then the player comes to you and is like, hey, things have changed. We're 3-0. It's like, no, this clearly says you can renegotiate after such and such a date and not before.
Yeah, but that's why the reason this is extra good is because obviously if you just paid them normal, you could do contracts.
Yeah, and the contracts that they'll come up with will be some sort of like a scheme. My suggestion would be to have a multi-year kind of agreement. And have the smartphones, like have a clawback provision. Like we'll give you all the money up front for like multiple years, knowing that they'll spend the money too fast, and they will be now committed to the cause.
Relying on the stupidity of the 20-year-old.
But the 20-year-old and their agent, because that'll be allowed. Like they just have to pay the players.
Now you've got a bunch of broke, angry, and miserable 20-year-olds.
That's not different
than now.
Playing
for you on your team. I'm not sure that's the attitude you want to cultivate.
You'll give them upfront money plus a structured stipend that's like they can't fuck it up,
or you can't get it until you complete your end of the agreement.
Hear me out. You give them something that's worth a whole pile of money that they can't really turn into cash and therefore waste. Like you give them something that's worth, I don't know, $40, $50, even $60,000 a year in some cases. You give them a place to stay. You give them food, right? And then they also get this tremendous asset that they can use to further themselves for the next 40, 50 years of their professional lives. And then they play football for you. What about that as a way of dealing with the situation?
It would have to be something that's like comprehensive, where it's not just one revenue stream. Maybe something that's upfront, like a signing bonus.
Bob is being cute, and it's not cute.
I was trying to suggest that they should give them full ride scholarships and room and board, and then maybe a small cash stipend to spend along the way, and then that's a fair trade.
So it should be noted that the current landscape, they're getting that plus the NIL money, right? Like the scholarship stuff is still in existence, right? They're still getting room and board and all that stuff, right? And so this is on top of what they have received in the past, and so. Yeah. I think going forward, schools like UNLV cannot afford to have this sort of. It's kind of like it's going to be like a social credit score kind of thing. Like UNLV is no good. They don't have the funds.
Yeah, but
for
to
it.
be fair, so is the kid. I think the kid's shit out of luck too. Like, where's he going to go? Where's Sluka going to go? Where you can say, okay, you can come here and we'll give you $25,000 in NIL money because we think you're pretty good, but also, like, how do you trust him not to turn around and say, no, I'm going to need more than that after they win the first 2 or 3 games?
No, you're right. Sluka is fucked, but he's like a martyr for the cause, right? He's going to benefit
he's
others.
very martyry.
Yes, he's going to be. Everybody will remember the name Sluka.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
I will.
ESPN lays off NBA senior writer Zach Lowe. That without in isolation, probably not a big deal that one ESPN NBA writer goes away. But this is on the heels of Robert Griffin III and Sam Ponder going away. It's on the heels of Wojnarowski deciding to leave for greener pastures in some bum-ass school that he went to some 30 years ago. ESPN's losing talent.
Right.
And like big high-priced talent. Apparently Zach Lowe is worth fucking millions of dollars a year. I had no idea.
I was surprised that he was a 7-figure deal. I didn't know he was commanding that kind of coin.
If Zach Lowe is getting that kind of money, whoever the awful we were watching like legit Sports Center the few weeks ago.
Were we?
Yeah. And it was awful. It was a couple of Indian fellas, not to besmirch
Oh yeah, I wasn't really watching.
any
But
one
you're
group
gonna
or
lead
another.
with that though.
It was very late though,
But
right?
it wasn't Dari Noka. It wasn't the guys that we know. It was a couple of very, very bad at
They
this
weren't good.
types. Like I can't imagine what they're making. And
Probably not that much.
Sure, I assume like Scott Van Pelt gets paid absolutely millions of
literally
dollars.
anything.
He probably gets.
He's priceless.
If he's not an 8-figure salary at ESPN, then nobody is. And I think SVP is great. But the backbenchers over there are wanting.
It's remarkable how the ESPN the value is almost all of it is towards like live sports, right? So they have invested a lot of money in just covering the games. Then they'll spend money on one big like talking head blowhard like Stephen A. Smith. For whatever reason, he commands a lot of money too. Also, because of all of the years of different people for Monday Night Football, they paid a lot of money for Aikman and Buck, right?
Which
So
I still don't understand why they're
but
worth.
it has
why any
fair,
one play-by-play man and his color fella is worth $25
Careful,
million
Bob.
a year or whatever
but
it is.
it's worth it in this regard. Like it has stabilized that franchise. Like basically, no one's talking about like who else to bring on. There were so many years. I mean, the last like 15 years, they just kept on rotating people. They just couldn't get the
Yeah, but the problem
crew,
was
right?
the games. The problem wasn't the. I mean, I agree the hosts weren't great, but like the issue with Monday Night Football was that the NFL insisted on putting the premier game of the week on Sunday night at 8:00 on NBC, and Monday night was getting some sort of dumpster fire games, and it wasn't worth checking out. It was it was a step up from Thursday night football, but the Monday night games were it no longer felt like the place to go for NFL stuff the way that Sunday night very much obviously was.
Right. But other than, like I said, the live sports, a couple of like high profile names, I bet you Scott Van Pelt is getting a bunch of money because he does that midnight broadcast that's like right after the games.
The best.
And he's so good.
And he's so good. But beyond that, maybe somebody did the math like, you know what? We can just go bottom feeder for everything else. Let's get some kid out of like Northwestern.
Well, nobody's watching it.
Yeah. So like, yeah,
We're
no one's
listening
watching
to
the other
podcasts.
stuff. So maybe the math is just like, why are we paying this writer all this money for analysis? People aren't coming to us for analysis. They're watching that Pate guy on YouTube or whatever. Maybe he's like, you know, like there are all these other YouTube figureheads that people go to now. That what's the point of paying all this money for that sort of content that's not our main bread and butter?
Right.
I think it's kind of changing the like what's important. And I don't know who else is left to cut at this point. I mean, they're not going to cut Aikman and Buck, right? So like they're going to stay, but I don't know who else is there that's like a high profile person to cut.
Right. I was thinking when I saw that when I saw the headline, ESPN does away with Zach Lowe, I thought immediately, oh, he'll be fine. He'll go start a Substack or something, and like he'll land on his feet and he'll be totally fine. And then I read the thing, and it's like, no, he's got a high seven-figure salary or whatever it says, multiple millions of dollars a year.
He'll really be fine.
Zach Lowe is getting paid. And no. My thought was, oh shit, like he's going to take a serious whack to his situation.
Okay.
No, I just mean, like, do you know how hard it is for even an incredibly popular and successful person like a Zach Lowe to get more than a few thousand subscribers on Substack?
Yeah, no, I know
Like,
that. I'm saying he can get a cheaper car.
No. I just mean it is a TV money is don't fuck with us money, and everything else is not TV money. Like,
Right.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
It hadn't occurred to me that Zach Lowe, who to me is more of I write articles for ESPN.com that I mostly don't read because they're about the NBA, and I assumed that he had a podcast, but like it never would have occurred to me that Zach Lowe makes whatever he made, $3 or $5 or $7 million a year, and to make up that kind of a shortfall. Just by like striking out on his own, like very, very few people are able to do that.
He's not going to strike out on his own. I mean, the likely landing spots will be either The Athletic or go back to Bill Simmons' universe, like The Ringer. Like
Right, except that the Athletic is also sort of trimming its sales lately.
They're not even like people are leaving. They're not, as far as I
Right,
can
because
tell.
they're not-
Everybody's quitting.
They're quitting because they're not being offered the sorts of career incentive packages that would make it meaningful for them to stay. And so, because the Athletic is perfectly willing to just hire the next batch of 25-year-olds rather than pay the 40-year-olds who are have higher salary demands. Abe, we forgot before we move on to the next thing. We forgot to let you live bet the game. You went from 2-3 to 2-5 based on your Monday night selections.
Yeah, that's
You were, by the way, spot on, Bob. You're like, this is going to go in tandem. Like, you'll get both of them right or both of them wrong, and unfortunately, both of them were wrong.
Both wrong. Right now, we've got, I don't know, I don't feel good about letting you bet on this game, actually. This is already 2 minutes to go.
So this is a Prime Video thing, right? So I don't have Prime Video, so I never know what happens on Thursday nights.
So you don't even know what's happened yet?
This is great.
I'm looking at the cheat sheet of the college pick'em spreadsheet, and it's Cowboys 4.5 at the Giants. And initially, my thinking was, I mean, this is the get-right game for the Cowboys, right? They've been stumbling.
Cowboys are 1-2. Giants come in 1-2 also. This is a home game for the G-Men down there at the Meadowlands. All right, so if you haven't seen an update yet, I'm perfectly fine with you making a call on this game.
Oh, wait, is this like this is a, I mean, the game has broken out. It's only been like an hour.
It's happening.
My thought was that the Cowboys will win comfortably.
All right, so we'll put you down for the Cowboys. It's currently, with 2 minutes to go in the first half, 14-6. The Giants have the ball on the Dallas 27. So,
wait, 14-6 in which direction?
Cowboys are up.
Okay, whew, I was about to say, there's no way these fucking G-men are going to win this game.
I don't know. G-Men looked pretty good against.
You didn't watch?
No, I
Cleveland, was it?
They beat the Browns, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's got Abe down for the Cowboys tonight.
That's weird. The Cowboys and the Giants, that's their common win. The Cowboys also beat the Browns.
Yeah, how about
Everybody just piling on the rapist.
Real quick on a little baseball situation. You mentioned that the Braves got rained out yesterday and today. They were trying to make up a game that got rained out on April 10th, Lori's birthday.
Oh, my birthday.
You'll note that September 26th is a long way from April 10th, and it's because the Major League Baseball has gone to more of a balanced schedule than they've had in the recent past, when you would play everybody nearly 20 times in your own division. They've since reduced that. You only play like 12 or 13 times, and you play everybody that many times. And so even your National League East rivals only come to town a couple of times a year, usually once at the start and then once towards the end. And so the Mets and Braves found themselves in a situation where an April series was not going to be completed until here now at the end of the season. And with the hurricane weather coming through, they were unable to get the game in. And it's going to result in what was supposed to be the final games of the season were all supposed to happen. I think they scheduled them for like 3 Eastern on Sunday afternoon, the last day of the season. They want all of the baseball games happening at once so as to avoid any weird situations where whatever game is being played later is either has an outsized potential for weirdness or impact on the season-long outcomes or has none impact whatsoever, right? So they decide to run all the games all at once. But because the Braves and Mets are going to need to play these 2 extra games on Monday, we're going to be in a situation where the whole league plays Sunday afternoon. Then the Braves and Mets have to play 2 games on Monday before the playoffs begin in earnest on Tuesday. There will be no break whatsoever. And so there's a possibility that either both the Braves and Mets will be in the playoffs, one or the other will be in the playoffs, or neither will be in the playoffs. But whatever happens, it's going to happen last game of the season officially Sunday, 2 games Monday, and then the Braves or the Mets will have to travel in all likelihood to Milwaukee or San Diego to start the playoffs the very next day, putting them in a rather unfortunate situation where you have to play all weekend, 2 games Monday, and then you're supposed to find the pitching to start a potential 3-game playoff series on Tuesday, halfway across the country. It sucks ass.
Yeah, it sucks. You know what's interesting? The delay in deciding what to do about the Wednesday and Thursday games. This hurricane was in the forecast for some time. You can never tell which direction it's going to go, right? So, like, maybe you don't want to plan a week out because the path of the hurricane could go somewhere else. But, like, there was, like, an open date on Monday because, like, I think the Mets Braves were, like, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so they had, like, an open date on Monday. If they got ahead of this, they could have just done some sort of double header on Tuesday or maybe, like, played on Monday to avoid this awkwardness next week on Monday.
Yeah, the problem is that the Mets and the Braves don't want to, like, give an inch to the other. They would rather let the universe fuck them both, seemingly, right? Like, they would rather not. The Braves don't want to be in a situation where they're like, okay, we'll do what the Mets want to do. And the Mets don't want to be in a situation where, like, okay, we'll do what the Braves want to do. And so instead they're just like, no, fuck you. And then this goddamn hurricane comes in and says, no, fuck you.
So this is like a I don't want to say a Mexican standoff, but like an NL East standoff where, like, no one wants to give an inch. They just want to ruin both of them. Like, it's better that than...
Yeah, I mean, I read an article today about how there's a very slight chance that the games on Monday could come down to if they split, then they're both in the playoffs. Like, if I forget who, if one of the National League teams, like if the Diamondbacks lose out or something, then it could be the situation where the Mets and the Braves can both get in if they split that situation on Monday. As long as
if that were to happen, can you just not play the games?
Well, no, you would have to play the game.
Oh, I forgot to tell Abe something.
You'll just bring up, like, some, like, minor league players or something, just like,
yeah, it would be interesting because, like, I think that the Mets and the Braves sort of don't like each other enough to not come to some sort of unsportsmanlike gentleman's agreement to where it's like, okay, you take this one and we'll take the next one. But also it's hard to do that in baseball, I think. Like, it's like legitimately difficult to tank a baseball game or to just say, yeah, we'll win this one and you have that one. But also I don't think that these are two clubs that would do that for one another. Like, the Braves would much rather be like, let's get 2 and fuck the goddamn Mets. They can go home. What did you forget to tell Abe, Lori? So
Calvin's baseball game on Sunday didn't go great. They were losing and it was getting late because it started late and it was 7-0 or something.
I think we got down 7-0 early. So
afterwards, because then we're trying to play as many innings as we can. So Bob's team, Calvin's team, was the away team. No, the home team.
Okay.
And Calvin afterwards was like, they should have just let us bat first in the 6th inning because then we would have ended earlier. And I was like, you should talk to Abe about that.
Yes, that is... you know what? That is a great idea. Like, I've heard of this idea before. I recommend this idea.
Abe's idea.
This was not Abe's idea. This was my idea. I have long said you should defer.
I thought this was Abe's idea. What's Abe's idea?
I don't know. But my idea was always, if you are, for example, the home team that's leading in the 7th inning by 7 runs, and they're like, look, we're trying to get out of here. We got to fly to the West Coast. We defer those 3 outs
Oh, well, I meant to tell you then.
Until we need them, right? And so it's like, okay, they've completed their half inning. Now we will defer the 8th inning outs as well. And then you move on to the 9th. And then if they mount some sort of miraculous comeback, you've got 9 outs to play with, and you can really make some weird shit happen.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't incorporate that at different, like, lower levels of baseball, just to see how it goes. Like, it's not going to hurt anybody. Just test it out. Anyway,
it is no small miracle that the Atlanta Braves are in any sort of a position to compete for a playoff spot. It is a remarkable job done by this organization to field a team that is competitive in the National League East and also in the wild card picture, because they have been just decimated by injuries, and decimated in this case might actually be approximately accurate. Where like a full 10% of their potential major league players have gone out, and it's been brutal. Decimated might be well under the understating just how bad they've had it in terms of the injury stuff. But it's fun, and I've watched so little professional baseball this season.
Just busy with other baseball
relative to my normal amount of baseball that is consumed. But I've been paying closer attention to it for the last week, and it's been fun. And I have no idea what would happen if the Braves were to sneak into the playoffs. But like, their starting pitching is good enough to get them going or get them through these short series. And you never know with these goofy 3-game and 5-game series. All of a sudden, you find yourself in the NLCS, and anything can happen from there. Also, I was going to say, we don't talk much about any other sports so far except for college football and the NFL, and I think that's for obvious and good reason. But I was thinking about the future of the show. I can't imagine doing this show twice a week in non-football season.
No, it's not necessary.
But it feels super necessary.
It is.
In football season
to do
twice weekly shows.
Why. Because you watch all of the football games. You're able to watch all of them. They're all in this time frame. You can watch all the football. You can talk. So today we talk about what will happen. Monday we talk about what did happen. But none of it
relating specifically to what we thought would happen, oddly enough.
No, it's never. No one ever admits they're wrong. But
we have a whole. Okay, the Monday is the eat shit show. Okay, that's the whole point of the show.
The other sports, it's all the time. So you can't. I mean, you could do one every day, but it's not like you could just do it once a week.
Yeah, I think we're going to once a week after football season. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
In January.
Yeah, in January. 14-9, the Giants kicked a field goal. That's good. Keeping it close. All right, time for the sports adjacent question of the week, which comes to us courtesy of Twitter, and also the fact that it is Georgia-Alabama week. Is Georgia-Alabama a rivalry? Does it need a name like the Red River Shootout, Clean Old-Fashioned Hate, the Cocktail Party, etc.?
I have a name for it.
Lori is shaking her head back and forth. Abe, you appear to be also disagreeing with the premise. Go ahead.
You know, like ESPN used to have this program called Instant Classic that I found kind of amusing, because you can't possibly have an instant classic, because a classic it withstands the test of time. Like, you need some sort of history, and so like maybe like in 20 years there'll be a rivalry, but like Georgia has rivalries with other programs, you know, like Florida and Auburn and Tennessee, and even Georgia Tech. Alabama is not one of those teams. It's just been like a rivalry because of the situation the last like 10 years or so, but it's not like a true rivalry. So it's just like two good teams in the same conference going at each other.
So I think it's clear that they are rivals.
No, it's not.
No, they are literally rivals, but they are not like in the just by the way the English language definition of the word here. Like, they are rivals. They are competing for the same prize. One cannot have it if the other does. They are therefore rivals, but they are not in what you would call a college football rivalry. No. This is not Georgia Florida. It's not Georgia versus Tech. It's not Georgia Tennessee. It's not Georgia Auburn. It's none of those things. It's not the Saints Falcons. It's not the Giants Cowboys.
It's not the Iron Bowl.
Not the Iron Bowl.
It's not the third Saturday in October.
Sure, nothing is the third Saturday in October anymore, though, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that'll go away. Don't worry. like, yes, they are rivals, but it is not a rivalry on the level of what these other programs have.
I do wonder if this is the early stages of a rivalry, because
they don't
it's
play
weird,
often enough. We only play in the SEC championship game for the most part,
Right.
and then once
That's
every
the name
8
of the
years
rivalry.
or something.
If you need to call it something, it's called the SEC championship, and it happens most of the time. But it's not a rivalry. Okay. It is very obvious that Alabama is Georgia's nemesis.
right.
There's an overlap with a rival and a nemesis, but Georgia is not Alabama's nemesis. And in real life, you have people who
that's
are
because
your nemesis.
You cannot have a nemesis if you are the dominant force. You don't have.
I mean, maybe you can.
Darth Vader doesn't have a fucking
Yeah.
nemesis. He's Darth fucking Vader.
I don't know, because I think of the people in my life who I've considered my nemesis, and most of the time they don't actually. I just hate them. They're not standing in the way of me, but that's maybe just because of my personality and because I don't care. But the popular, you hear the word nemesis in gymnastics, where it's like the beam has been her nemesis this whole event, and like the gymnast is not the beam's nemesis. The beam is doing just fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when the gymnast does well, the balance beam is not upset.
Why are we talking about gymnastics? What the fuck?
To draw a
I'm just
comparison.
saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not. It's a one directional thing where a rivalry goes both ways, even if it's lopsided.
It is a very weak-minded individual who thinks that they are in some sort of a nemesis relationship with a 4-inch piece of wood that's covered in a fabric.
Okay, well then they're weak-minded, but like.
But I mean, if you think of it as like this obstacle that's in the way of a goal, it fits.
A 4-inch piece of wood covered in some sort of weird fabric.
Okay.
It's a funny way of... never mind.
But
No, it's not a rivalry. Don't be stupid. Anyone who calls it a rivalry is stupid.
The one part that I hesitate to say like it's not is because I can't future-proof that statement. Because like, what if in 20 years, the circumstances dictate what happens, right? And a lot of those teams that we mentioned were in the SEC East, like Florida, and Tennessee, and South Carolina. You just play them a lot. And
You can future-proof the statement, Abe, because it is purely circumstantial when and if we will be playing Alabama.
I know, but if Georgia...
If we play them in the playoffs or in the SEC championship game, which the SEC championship game might not be a thing in 2 or 3 years, because they might go to a playoff format that essentially makes conference championship games not only unnecessary, but in fact they simply won't
detrimental.
happen.
Like you don't want to do it.
And so, like, there won't be because we don't play them every year, because there will be 20 fucking teams in the Southeastern Conference before we know it, and you only play them once every fucking 12 years, or they only come to your town once every 12 years, and that the only circumstance dictates when you happen to catch them in the playoffs. Even if you catch them every other year, it's still not a rivalry in the way that playing Auburn every single year is a goddamn rivalry, or the way that playing Florida in the cocktail party is a rivalry.
Or if it's also, you don't have to future-proof it, like you're saying, because just because there isn't a rivalry now doesn't mean there won't ever be one.
Right, but okay, so if you look at the 90s, right, the Niners and the Cowboys, there was a rivalry because they kept on meeting each other in the playoffs. They weren't from the same division, right? The Colts and the Patriots, not from the same division.
I don't think so. So maybe we just disagree on the term here. I don't think of the Niners Cowboys as a rivalry. Yeah. The Cowboys have rivals. They are the Giants and the Redskins, and then to a lesser extent the Eagles. The Giants have rivals. They are the Cowboys and the Redskins. Like the Falcons have rivals. It's the Saints. They probably don't have any other. Sure, they play the Panthers and the Bucks every year.
Redskins,
but the Saints
the rivals
are their
of
fucking
the
rivals.
Redskins are the NFC East plus the Ravens.
So you're saying that just frequency is the only standard if you don't play a lot.
Frequency plus hate. Yeah,
but you need both. Like, you can't just hate.
Yes.
Like, you need to have frequency.
You cannot just hate. You must have frequency plus hate. And it has to be standing. It has to be scheduled. It has to be.
I guess you're right. So because I was thinking like Tennessee, Alabama, but they were playing frequently.
Third Saturday in October.
Right.
Right. So like That's interesting because I always think that's one way, but there are other rivalries. I mean, I always thought that the Packers Cowboys. I mean, there are rivalries that are not within the same division.
Packers Cowboys is not a thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
They had a lot of fun games, and they were both good at the same time,
Right.
and they both took more from each other than a lot of other teams took from each other.
I was at a bar with Julia in, I don't know, 2009. So I don't know when it was. It was a long time ago. And there were these dudes, and it came up. I said Georgia. It was a Georgia fan.
Here we go.
And the guy said, what?
A couple of broads meeting some dudes in a bar.
Yeah. I mean, the story gets better, but it's not sports related when it gets better. This fucking guy says, "Oh, we're rivals," and I was like, "Okay, who is your team?"
Right.
Virginia Tech. I said, "Oh no, not. That's not one of them. I can name some rivals. There's a long list. You're not it." And he said, "Well, maybe we're not rivals, but we're both like competitors, like on the same level." And I was like, "Still no." And every time Virginia Tech loses, I think of that fucking guy. Because, like, what a dumb shit thing to say.
This guy's like, I went to school when Mike Vick was there, and so
He must... No, because we did play Virginia Tech
yeah, sure, we played
once
them, like,
in a meaningless bowl
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then the funny part that's not sports related is Julia was talking to the other of the two of them, and he asked her where she worked, and she told him, and he said, "Oh, my brother works there." And she realized that the person at work that she hates most is his brother. And she said, "You're Patrick Hale's brother." And as soon as she said that, Patrick Hale walked in, and she was like, "We are getting the fuck out of here." It was very funny. It was good. It was a good moment.
I do wonder how often there, what is it? The unrequited love, like unrequited rivalry. Like somebody's like, "Hey, we're your rivals," and you're like, "No, we're not." Like, fuck you, guy.
But that's I think Alabama is if you're gonna do that,
Yeah.
it's like everybody. Alabama's our biggest rival, and Alabama's like, no, it's pretty much just Auburn, and
yeah.
they suck
Alabama
now.
thinks it's Auburn. Tennessee thinks it's Alabama.
There's a great little graph.
Yeah, I mean, and Georgia is in a weird situation where it feels like we
It's a lot.
legitimately have four in my head. It's Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, and Tech are the four rivals, and I have trouble. Like if I'm dropping one team off of that, it's Tennessee, but I don't know why necessarily. Like, I mean, I can deal with a loss to Tennessee. I can live with it more than I can live with a loss to any of the other three. There's nothing, and as I used to say, there's nothing better than beating Florida, and there's nothing worse than losing to Tech. And that's sort of how I conceive of these rivalries. Like maybe it's part of the fact that Spurrier owned Georgia so thoroughly for so long, and then it took a while for Rick to even start figuring out how to deal with Florida.
Because it has a fucking name. It's the largest outdoor cocktail party. It's the same weekend every year. It's a thing.
It is interesting. Tennessee doesn't have an in-state rival. Like they're not sweating Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Vandy says Tennessee is our biggest rival, right? Like that. But Tennessee would say it's Alabama.
Yeah.
Whatever. I was amused by the Twitter conversation around is Georgia Alabama a rivalry when it seems it's self-evident to me that it is not. Despite the again, I think a lot of it has to do with how much has this other side taken from you or prevented you from achieving.
The answer for us is everything.
And you can look
there
at
are nemesis.
Yeah, and it requires that it goes both ways. We have not stopped Alabama because no one has.
We did once.
One time we did, and Clemson did one time. Is Clemson Alabama's
Clemson
rival?
did twice.
Fuck no, they're not. Anyway, all right, let's move along here. It's now time for the best game in every time slot. We will walk you through your college football weekend so that you don't miss any of the best games. Assuming you can get out of watching your child's youth sport, soccer, or whatever the hell it is you have going on.
Soccer's at 11 this weekend. So
yeah, we're going to be all right with the youth sport this weekend.
And you're choosing to do baseball practice.
Unless I get an extra baseball practice in. We will see what happens with that. Friday night. And there is college football happening tonight, but I believe it's a couple of garbage games.
It's Army at Temple or Navy at Temple or one of the...
And Temple is real bad.
Army 28, Temple Squadouche.
That's tough.
That's what happens when Andrew goes to your school sometimes. Love you, Andrew.
All right. Friday night, though, do not watch Virginia Tech at Miami because Virginia Tech sucks. That's game
Because of that fucking guy.
kicks off first. Although I guess if you want to see how good Cam Ward is and that Miami offense, then I guess check that out. But Washington plus 2.5 traveling to Rutgers all the way across the country. This is a classic Big Ten clash between Washington and Rutgers, the team from the Pacific
Rivals,
Northwest and the team from New Jersey.
Rutgers is undefeated?
Yes, they are undefeated, including after just barely hanging on last week against the aforementioned Virginia Tech.
That's remarkable.
Washington lost a close game to their in-state rival, Washington State, last week, while Rutgers is currently undefeated. Will Rogers, who SEC football enthusiasts will recognize as the former Mississippi State quarterback, has been throwing the ball around with great efficacy so far for Washington. He's like over 1,000 yards already, and I think 8 touchdowns, no picks. So he's having a good year. I think Rutgers is fairly fraudulent despite being undefeated, and I think Washington wins this game fairly handily. So that's
you don't believe in their victories against Howard and Akron?
I do not.
Akron.
I think it's Akron, but
Akron.
But the point stands. Also, are the Friday night games way better this year than they have been in the past?
I
think
have a
this is like
theory.
the second or third weekend in a row where Friday night has had a pretty good game.
I have a theory.
Please.
We weren't watching them before.
But I think we weren't watching them because they weren't as good.
I think that we didn't watch as much non-SEC football last year.
Maybe.
Oh, you think
Maybe
that's
also,
all it is.
Am I overrating Washington at Rutgers just because of the...
No, it's just that because it's college football, it's probably going to be fun.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a time where, not to sound like some old fuddy-duddy, but like Friday was
it's what
high
we
school,
do here.
Saturday college, and then Sunday was the professionals, and now like it's just all over the place. Maybe
Yeah, it's
you're
just
right,
all the
Lori,
time.
that they had marquee games in the past on Fridays and we didn't care, but like I don't recall that being the case.
I
but
remember
I guess,
Thursday night games. I remember
Yes.
the opening weekend. NC State was always playing Thursday night before football started.
Yeah, you'd get one recognizable school. Like I think Tech did the Thursday night thing before the season started a couple of times too.
I wonder if this NFL on Thursday thing shifted the marquee Thursday games to Friday, and they're like, oh, Temple can have Thursdays, and we'll just have Friday. Because Friday's an open date, why not?
Yeah, we haven't had any Wednesday night action yet this season, and I think that starts next week or the week after that too. So that's coming.
Wait, there's Wednesday football?
Yeah, like
Mac.
Is Tuesday the only sacred day? Like other than like
I
some
swear,
weather?
I was looking ahead at the schedule. I think there's a Tuesday night college game in consecutive weeks coming up. Like it's completely out of control.
Holy
But
hell.
it's not. It's nice.
All right,
It's just more football.
moving on to Saturday, college game day has wrapped up. You've had your fill of Pat McAfee's nipples, and it's time to watch some football.
They're in Tuscaloosa, right?
Yes, they're going to be
Yeah.
doing all sorts of bonus
They're doing like extra shows.
game day programming from down there.
Is Trump going to be the celebrity guest picker? Who's going to
No.
do the?
How amazing would that be?
What-
Because he
Would
is going
he
to be
not?
he is going to be in town. That would be
The problem is
perfect.
you have to
kids-
commit
the
for like
kids
10 hours, right? Because it's a like 9 a.m. to like noon kind of show, and then like the game is at 7:30. So like, is he going to fly in like at 8 o'clock
That's
or something?
true. Can you imagine Trump trying to fill 9 hours on the ground in Tuscaloosa? What a nightmare. All right. At noon, the game to put on your primary television is 20th ranked Oklahoma State catching 5 points at Kansas State. I think that's going to be a game that Oklahoma State fucking runs away with.
Is that what I said?
I don't know what you said, but I don't even know if I bet that game. We'll get to our picks in a minute. But Oklahoma State and KSU both 0-1 in the Big 12, desperate for wins to stay relevant in the conference championship race. I think that Kansas State is entirely fraudulent and Oklahoma State is at least pretty good, even though they don't have much of a front four in terms of their offensive line. I think they're going to be just fine and win that game on the road at Kansas State. It should be at least entertaining enough to keep on. On the second TV, I recommend BYU plus 3.5 at Baylor. I think that's another one where the traveling underdog has a pretty good chance. Abe, you got mad at the Baylor bums last week because they could not
Those
finish the
fucking
drill
bums.
against Colorado. I think Baylor's in trouble again, so BYU might be worth a watch.
It's on Fox Sports 1. I don't know that it can be on the Fox.
Yeah, but BYU is seeking to stay undefeated in the Big 12 and keep their hopes alive to stay at the top half of that conference. And then also on that second TV, this is a weird game. Kentucky plus 17.5 at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has put up like fucking 97 points a game so far. I think that's the number. And Kentucky has not done that. They don't have much of an offense to speak of. 17.5, even if you assume that Kentucky's offense, or defense rather, comes out and is as good against Ole Miss as they were against Georgia and makes Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss offense look as hapless as they made Georgia look, I just don't see how Kentucky can score enough to stay close enough to Ole Miss to justify that 17.5 number. I know it's a big number for an SEC conference game, but like, I don't know. I don't think maybe they're seeing something in Kentucky that we weren't seeing in the past.
I mean, Lane Kiffin's got this. I'm not worried about this game.
Yeah, I didn't even see your picks go in. Have you made your picks yet?
I forgot to enter them earlier this week, but I have entered the picks, and that's one of them.
This is Ole Miss's first, I mean, much in the same way that Georgia had played Clemson, but Ole Miss has played nobody. So this will be their first legitimate test, certainly the first legit defense that they've faced. And we'll see what they've got. I would love to see Jackson Dart not be as awesome, just because it would make me feel better about my evening. Like if Kentucky can make this Ole Miss offense fucking work for it, I will immediately feel better about what's happening.
It won't help.
At 7:30 in the
Your
evening.
feelings don't matter here.
Sure. Moving on to the 3:30. By the way, as much excitement and fun as I'm expecting this weekend, I don't think I'm going to get much argument about any of my choices here. There aren't a ton of great games.
Yes.
There's just one really awesome game, which is
potentially awesome game.
The Georgia-Alabama game.
The good games stand out. It's not an embarrassment of riches here this weekend.
Right.
Just a couple of good games.
3:30. We've got Louisville plus 6.5 at Notre Dame. Louisville played Georgia Tech closer than the score indicated, and a win here would probably make them a clear number 2 in the ACC, assuming that Miami takes care of business against Virginia Tech on Friday night. But it's not a conference game, and so it doesn't really matter to their future prospects. Whereas Notre Dame really cannot afford to not win this game. If they lose this game, I don't see how they can get into the playoff based on the remaining wins that they have on their schedule. I mean, we're talking about a game against Tech, which might look okay, and then eventually, hopefully, a win against USC. Like if Notre Dame loses this game, I think my parlay is toast. I think Notre Dame is out of the playoff. And then second TV at 3:30. Of course, you just have to find Colorado. Wherever Colorado is happening, you make sure that you've got that game on the second television because some weird shit is going to happen at some point. Colorado catching 14.5 points as they travel all the way down to the University of Central Florida, where they are 2-touchdown underdogs. I don't see how, and I think they got their asses kicked in this game last year, as I recall. But then again, Colorado and UCF both currently undefeated in their conference so far, and a loss probably takes them out of any conversation about the conference championship game. But I think UCF is a pretty safe bet there. All right, and then that gets us to the only important game of the weekend, which is number 2, Georgia, minus 2 points as the road favorite. Heading
minus
to
2 points, but ESPN predicted, 30% chance of winning.
Right. All of the Vegas people still believe Georgia is the favorite, and all of the algorithms where they run, CBS Sportsline ran 100,000 episodes of this fucking television program, and Alabama won 67,000 of them. So do with that what you will. But yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no feel for this game whatsoever. It would surprise me if Georgia dominates, but only because Georgia has never dominated Alabama. It just doesn't happen that way. Since since in the modern era, which for our
Yeah.
purposes we're going to call 2002, this is the start of essentially the start of my fandom was when I started at school there in the fall of 2001. We played Alabama in October of 2002. We beat them in 02 and 03 and again in 07. And then Alabama...
07 was first year Nick Saban.
Right. 07 was Saban's first year.
Won in overtime.
I think they went 6-6 that year, if memory serves. He was fixing things, but they certainly were not fixed. And then in 2008, they come to Athens. We tried to run the blackout back one more time. It was a poor decision.
I was sick. I had like a bug, and I worked 12 or 14 hours or something.
I think, is that the game where they jumped out like fucking 30-0 or something, and then it ended up like 41-30?
Yeah,
was the final something? Yeah. So like they housed us, and then the final score doesn't indicate that it was nearly as bad as it actually was. But yeah, that was the start of things getting real ugly. We lost to them again in the SEC championship in 2012, which was the next time we played them after that. And then in 15 and in 18 and in 18 again and in 20 and in 21. And then we finally had a small amount of redemption when we beat them for the national title on January 10th, 2022. And we lost again last year in the SEC championship game.
I like to tell the story to people of when we finally beat them. And how earlier that week I was trying to figure out what a good luck dinner would be. And I asked Julia, I said, what is a good luck dinner? Because we're playing Alabama and we need luck. And she said, what did you eat the last time you beat Alabama? And I said, I don't remember what I ate for dinner 15 years ago. Like...
When the answer is just
Red Bull, probably.
Red Bull and various
maybe a hot dog from the hot dog guy. Who knows? Was there dinner?
Abe, what is your feeling on this game? As I said, I can't really get a handle on it. At the same time, I say I can't get a handle on it, and I say I would be surprised if we blew them out. Like, I firmly believe that we're a better team. Not that matters.
Why though?
Because of what I've seen so far this season, because of what I know about our defense, specifically our front seven. And if you take our front seven and then you add Malachi Starks in, I'm okay with the secondary because I think the rest of the secondary will figure it out. I do not expect Jalen Milroe to take apart what is our most suspect part of our defense. But
he did last year.
Which is our secondary. I know, but I just don't expect to see it again. He's not the sort of guy who does that all the time. He's just as likely to look like he looked against UCF or USF or whichever one of the Florida schools it is that they have problems with. Just as likely to look like he did in that Auburn game that he had to play hero ball in after kind of sucking for most of the game. Like, I don't know. I don't trust Jalen Milroe at all. I think that given what we did to Kentucky, who's sort of a mini and extremely impoverished man's version of Georgia or Alabama, and closer to Alabama because that Brick Vandergruff sort of resembles Jalen Milroe in his running ability, his escapability, and his generally suspect about his ability to throw the ball down the field. Although, like, Milroe does have a good long ball. It's just they don't seem to be able to do it consistently. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Abe, what do you got?
So the chances for a blowout in either direction, to me, seems like it's remote. I don't think that's going to happen. It should be like a much closer game. This is not charitable to Georgia, but this is not when a team needs to win a game, I would trust Alabama in this matchup, but this is like an early season.
You would trust Nick Saban. Would you trust Alabama?
We'll see. Maybe it's 1 year removed from the Nick Saban. Maybe there's some residue of Nick Saban still there on the team.
Definitely fucking residue. Have you seen them? It's residue.
But I think I am very comfortable in thinking that Georgia's going to win. I'm going to pick Alabama in the pick 'em in a second because anytime I'm comfortable with anything, I go the other. I'm trying to profit off of my confidence. We'll see if this works. But Georgia should win this game. Like, there's no Nick Saban. This is like at Alabama. It's early in the year. It's not a title game or anything like that. It's not going to decide anything. It's a survivable game for either team. You can lose to a top 5 team and recover and still make it.
This gets to what I don't like about the game, which is that Yes, it's the first top 5 matchup of the season. Yes, it's the most exciting game of the weekend. Yes, it feels like it has big stakes. But it also feels like it's really missing the ultimate college football stakes
I disagree.
that I'm accustomed to. Nothing changes for either team
One of us will have lost to Alabama
if they lose.
You know,
in terms of you always, I think Mark Richt used to say, we want to keep all of our goals in front of us or whatever, like something along those lines. And losing to Alabama, if our goal is to be standing there on fucking Inauguration Day, hoisting the Crystal Trophy or whatever they're doing now, that goal is still in front of you. If you lose to a top 5 Alabama team, you could even get blown out.
Yes.
By Alabama.
Well, I mean, you don't want to get blown out. But yeah, you're right. You could probably recover from that. You know, back in the day, they used to have these, maybe there was only one time where this happened. I remember when I was younger, they would have these tightrope weirdos where they would like walk across some like tall structure to say, oh, look at me, I'm so good at this, right?
Right.
And this is like that, except there's like a safety net underneath, right? So like the visual is that this guy is doing this tightrope walk, but if things fall apart, there's a safety net. They're not going to die, right? So this is in the past, it would have been a tightrope walk without a safety net. If Georgia were to lose this game, this would have been like fatal to their national title aspirations.
Right.
But it's not. And so Georgia needs to win this game. It doesn't really matter what Alabama does, but it does matter for Georgia. Georgia needs to win this game. You can't lose to Alabama without Nick Saban.
I mean, I agree with you psychologically, but the talk afterwards, the cope will be correct.
What I hear you saying is feelings aren't facts.
It's what you hear me saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to some extent.
Okay.
The fact that this game does not matter in terms of the ultimate outcome of the season makes it inherently less interesting.
Okay, and I think that feelings are just as valid as
pulls the stakes
reality.
down. But what will the feeling be on Sunday morning if we lose to Alabama? It'll be like, well, that sucks.
The exact same thing it's fucking been every time we've lost to Alabama.
It won't be, because it won't feel like they've taken anything from us, because fundamentally they won't have.
But the problem is, the argument is like, man, this fucking Alabama team, it's because of Nick Saban that we're losing. And now if you lose to a non-Nick Saban team, like, what does that mean? Like, this team can win? Like, there's like some sort of mental hang-up. Because these are evenly matched teams. Georgia should have the advantage. Like, on a neutral, I mean, even on the road, they're favorites. But, like, on a neutral site, it would be even more so. Georgia should win this kind of game. Like,
sure,
you should be able to win this.
The oddity of that statement, while true, is that had we beaten Alabama in that game last year and made it into the playoff, like this wouldn't even be that conversation. We would have exorcised the Alabama demon by three-peating for the national title.
And that would have been
year.
a perfect time and retired the old man, right? Like, imagine beating Nick Saban and he just fucks off because, the landscape changed. Like, that would have been perfect. That would have been a perfect
Or maybe
year.
he wouldn't have fucked off.
Yeah, maybe you're right, yeah.
I don't know. It makes it slightly less fun for me. Like it feels like it could be.
It's like a process-oriented versus results-oriented thing. Like, it's a mindset thing, and if you want to think in a goal-oriented way, yeah, it doesn't matter. But if you want to be process-oriented, it matters so much.
The problem I have with that idea is that the cope will be this is all part of the process also. That it's hard to beat the same team twice in a year. Yeah. There's no loss, there's just a learning opportunity, right? Like it's all going to be fucking cope no matter which way it goes.
But that happens at the end of every season no matter what. That's what sports is.
I know. It feels like it because we could lose this game. We could lose to Texas. We probably cannot lose to Alabama, Texas, and either Ole Miss or Tennessee, but we can lose 2 of those 4 games and probably be in the playoff, like 90% likely be in the playoff.
You're right, Bob, but I suspect, I'm going to make a prediction, 7:30 Saturday night, it's not going to feel like a who gives a shit kind of game. You're still going to be like, oh my God, this is great.
Right. Absolutely. I'm just saying that it is undeniable that it takes something away. It's not a lot. It doesn't make me less likely to tune in. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to care as I am tuned in, but it will not be as meaningful as it otherwise could be. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't feel the same way, and that's fine.
second TV, if you insist on having more entertainment.
How dare you? A second TV. The second TV should just show the first TV. This is going to be...
I
No,
sort of-
because the second TV, the problem is
I sort of agree with you. We should just have both games going on the thing at the same time.
But the second TV is on less of a delay than the first TV.
Okay.
So we have a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be disorienting if you have the same game.
Well, no, you just pause one and like let them sync
like
up or
time
whatever.
it just right? Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be fine. But if you insist on having something else going on at 7:30, Illinois plus 18 or 17.5, depending on when you catch the number, at number 9 Penn State. That is a massive number based
is that
on.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I double checked it. It's Illinois looked good against Nebraska last Friday night. I do not understand that number whatsoever. I don't think that Illinois is going to win. I think Penn State holds on at home and they'll be fine because like this is one that they have to get up for, especially after last Friday.
I heard that they're doing like they can't officially call it a whiteout, but it's like, well, everybody's going to be wearing a color.
Why can't they officially call it a whiteout?
I don't know. I forget.
Is it a racism or because
No, they're only allowed to like have one. I don't know. I figure it out later.
when did Penn State become some fucking juggernaut? Like I watched them look like shit against whoever it was that they were
West
losing to at the
Virginia.
half. No, they looked okay against West Virginia. It was that game they played the week after that where they looked like garbage.
Bowling Green or
yeah,
something?
they were down to Bowling
That's right.
Green at the half.
Wasn't that like a 30-plus point spread?
Yeah, they were 30-point favorites against Bowling Green, and now they're 18-point favorites against a really good Illinois team, or at least a really good Illinois defense. I don't understand at all. I think that's like put $100 on Illinois and turn the TV off. Don't worry about it.
$100
I mean, not to win, but to cover. That's a big number.
still. It's a lot of money.
All right, you're now fucking depressed because of what happened during the 7:30 window. You should probably just
Just go to bed.
pour yourself another drink and fall asleep on the couch with it in your lap, or open that last beer that my brother
just
would
put it
always
next
open.
to you. Definitely make someone start making you food.
Yes, you must preheat the oven. Someone needs to put frozen pizza in the oven for you, but you're definitely not going to be awake in 20 minutes, so why bother?
Or you could order a pizza and then fall asleep.
Yeah. 10 o'clock, Washington State +7 at number 25, Boise State. It's going to be a lot of points. It should be a lot of fun, but I feel like we're done with football at that point. But if you need one more game,
we might
put
be
that one on.
footballed out. Or like Andy and Ari will almost definitely be chit-chatting right after.
Any notes on my my day of games there? I think they're all
No, it
good.
looks good. I mean, the main game I'm going to be watching will be the Georgia-Alabama game. I'm going to go to a nice little sports bar and watch it. I'm not sure.
Oh
if
yeah,
I'm
you're
gonna
going out. You're going to go
God.
go
Oh
into
yeah, yeah. I mean,
public
this
to watch
is going
this
to
one.
be. Yeah, this is definitely go out to watch with a bunch of degenerates.
You should probably find the local Alabama bar and
No.
go see
There
what
is
they're
a
doing.
local Alabama bar within walking distance, but I want to go to a Georgia bar just to because it's going to be a Georgia win, easy.
All right, let's move on to the CIB Pick'em contest. As we all know, Abe, you're the caboose at the moment. So why don't you go ahead and lead us off with your picks for the weekend?
So I'm going to continue to ride the Lane Kiffin train. Ole Miss 17.5. It doesn't matter what it is. Easy cover. That's my first pick. Like I said, I expect fully Georgia to win this game, but you can't pass up Alabama getting points at home. I mean, you just got to go with Alabama. I'm behind here. So I'm going to pick Alabama.
It's been a long time since Alabama was a home underdog. I think it's been 15 years or
Yeah.
something.
Been a long time. So, like, why not? I'll be happy. I'll be happy if Georgia wins.
It is completely foolish to put money anywhere else besides Alabama as a home dog. Like it is insane to not just throw $50 on that when that opportunity arises.
Right. Oregon, very slow start, but I think they're turning a corner. And after winning last week comfortably, they go at UCLA 24.5 points. I think they'll be able to eclipse that with relative ease. So Oregon 24.5, easy. Georgia State winning as a home dog against Georgia Southern, also easy. I can't believe I'm like dead last in this thing. All these games seem so easy. And then
Wait.
Yeah.
When did you get this in? Because I've got Georgia Southern catching 3.5 points and State State minus 3.5.
Oh, you know what? I should take that back. I just went by whatever the lines were on the page. I didn't actually look at the did it change to something?
It has moved. Southern is no longer the favorite.
Yeah, but it says here on this spreadsheet that they are.
Yeah, but I filled the spreadsheet out on Monday morning. Things
for
change.
some
But
reason
they didn't change on the spreadsheet. If you changed, you should have changed it there.
I leave that as the opening line, and then
you're right. You're right, Bob. Yeah, for some reason I was just looking at, maybe because I was doing it in the last hour.
No,
what is the line now?
It's minus 3.5 Georgia State.
Ooh, okay. Then keep it that way. It'll just be a 5-pointer instead of a 10-pointer. Georgia State,
All right, so
3.5.
you want Georgia State minus 3.5. All right.
Yeah. All right. And then lastly, I got the Vikings over the Packers. Still no word on Jordan Love, whether he plays or not. It's a game-time decision.
Although that doesn't matter, apparently.
Yeah, you got Sam Darnold. I mean, the MVP. Who cares who's on the other side?
I've got the Vikings plus 3. Is that what I had on the sheet originally?
Well, on the page it's 2.5, but is it 3 now?
Yeah, Vikings seems like the right pick there. Fucking CIB hero Sam Darnold is going to get it done.
You can't go wrong.
All right, I will do Cousin Steve's picks real quick. He's got Titans as the money line favorite. He's taking aiming for a 2-point game there, even though the Titans are only minus 1.5, which is interesting. 49ers minus 10. He's got JMU. He's riding JMU hard. I think this is a couple of times he's picked this game. JMU minus 20.5. And then he's got Michigan State plus 23.5. They are at home against Ohio State. And then he wants Arkansas as the money line dog traveling to Texas A&M. Arkansas.
He's never picked JMU. That was me.
That was you. Sorry. Sam Pittman going into Aggieland and getting it done, according to Cousin Steve.
Oh.
Lori, would you like to give your picks?
Okay, so no, I would not.
Too bad.
Yeah, Oklahoma State at Kansas State, I think. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, easy money. That is the correct side.
Yeah, so why not Oklahoma State? Whatever. They're probably fine. Opposite of Steve, because Arkansas's not good.
Arkansas might not be good. However, they are.
But it's at A&M.
They are one goofy overtime game away from being undefeated, right? They almost.
Almost beat Oklahoma State.
Right, they almost beat Oklahoma State in a goofy overtime game.
Yeah, 3:30 in College Station or wherever the fuck that place is. Whatever. I think that A&M will win by a touchdown or whatever.
Okay.
Illinois, for reasons spoken earlier, we just watched them be good at football.
Yep, Illinois plus 17.5.
17.5.
That's the right side, yeah.
So what is this? Points that I'm having.
You would get 5 if you were
No.
correct.
I think Illinois will probably not win. Maybe they'll win, but it won't be by 17.5 points.
You don't have to. Everyone else understands.
Okay.
You don't have to explain it to yourself.
I don't think I've said the official Illinois plus 17.5.
Right.
Okay, so UNC plus 2.5 at Duke. I think that UNC, given what happened last weekend, they don't need to bounce back hard. It's Duke. So, if they can beat their rival, which it is, at Duke, let's fucking pull it together after
Mac Brown maybe tried to retire after giving up 70.
Maybe the biggest meltdown we've ever seen on television. I think they'll win at Duke. And I am thinking Florida State, after winning last weekend, will probably also win this weekend at SMU.
Florida State, a 5.5 point underdog, traveling.
I think that's being
to
dramatic.
SMU.
Isn't SMU the team that scored 60 some odd points the other day, last week?
Yeah, SMU owned the shit out of TCU recently.
Yeah, and for that reason as well. I think this is going to be a hangover game for SMU.
Game. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
All right, watch out.
Vibes, man.
Lori's going to lose Abe some money if she keeps talking.
That's not how that works. Abe's going to lose Abe some money.
That's right. Yes.
Are our children in bed?
No, I think they're just hanging out. They don't have school.
These motherfuckers.
They don't have school.
It's 10:30.
They don't have school tomorrow. It's fine.
Wait, school's canceled for the weather or just
No, they just have
coincidence.
a teacher work day.
Okay, gotcha.
built into the schedule because, God forbid, you only have one 4-day week in September for Labor Day. You've got to have a second by the end of the month. These fucking unions, man. All right.
The teachers still have to go to work.
BYU at Baylor, catching 2.5 points. I want them straight up. Oklahoma minus 2.5 at Auburn. Give me Oklahoma. Georgia minus 2.5 on the road in Tuscaloosa. Give me the Dogs. You're goddamn right. That's what I want to happen, and that's why I'm making that bet. All of the smart money goes on Alabama. Who said anything about smart money? FIU is catching 2.5 points at home against Louisiana
Play
Tech.
Pitbull now.
I saw what FIU did last time they were catching points at home, so we're going to ride FIU. And then I've got the Vikings, as does Abe, straight up against the Packers because of CIB hero Sam Darnold. It would be foolish not to ride that guy for as long as possible.
Going back to this Oklahoma at Auburn, are you like where would you set the line? Is 2.5 about right? Isn't Auburn just like a dumpster fire? Why is
it's funny? It's funny you should ask, Abe. Let's just move directly into the Jimmy Carter Lock of the Week live from the Plains.
Hello to my dear friends at Cast Iron Balls, and also to Abe. I don't prefer to pass judgment on my fellow man, but I must acknowledge I am guilty of judgment of, and even contempt for, my fellow man at times. We are all of us sinners before God. After all, none of us any better than the other, next to his perfection. But Hugh Freeze is one low-character son of a bitch, and I'm not a Christian to say it, especially with Rosalind not around anymore to keep me civil. A head coach is meant to be a leader, and a leader is meant to both guide and serve those that he leads. You explain to me how blaming everyone but yourself for your team's failures makes you a leader of men, or a servant to anyone besides your own overinflated ego. Does he expect these boys to drag themselves out from under the bus he's thrown them under and work harder than ever? Of course not. It's clear to anyone listening that they don't matter to him. Only Hugh Freeze matters to Hugh Freeze. He should be ashamed of himself, were he capable of shame. Coach Freeze has been taught over and over again that he can do whatever he wants, say whatever he wants, without suffering the consequences. He will just keep getting another job. He goes from hiring his coach to getting hired by Liberty University, of all places. If a scoundrel is never held to account, he'll always remain a scoundrel. I am guilty this week of the ultimate gamble sin, allowing the wish to be the father of the bet. But I simply cannot help but hope that Auburn get their tails kicked this Saturday. I hope the young men down there give it all they've got, get their butts whipped because of poor coaching, and look that empty peanut shell of a so-called man in the face and dare him to blame them again. So take Oklahoma and lay the 25 points. I know that's a big number, but what's that, Jason? 2.5? It can't be 2.5. Oklahoma has a stout defense and Auburn is a dumpster fire coached by a narcissistic shit full brains. All right, if you say so. My always around nephew insists that the number is just 2.5. I'd take that all day. Boomer Sooner. As always, enjoy the games with good food and drink, and most importantly, good company. May God bless this great nation and this great podcast. Until next week, this is Jimmy from Plains for Cast Iron Balls. And don't forget, Boomer Sooner.
That is our 39th president.
Did he say woo sinner?
He said Boomer Sooner, to be clear. He didn't say it terribly. He's 100 goddamn years old. What do you want from him?
It's like Woo Pig Suey is Arkansas, but
I'm with the former president here, believe it or not.
oh, you are.
Yeah, 2.5 to that. 25 points would have made more sense. 2.5 is, but that should give you pause. You know, just like with this Illinois spread. Like, what are these nerds in Vegas know that we don't know? Like, why are the lines the way they are?
Nerds.
I don't know either, but like it seems super obvious to me that this should be a double-digit game, and instead it's just 2.5 points, which should make you want to stay away. But it's doing the opposite for me and for the president. From hiring escorts to getting hired by Liberty University.
Of all places.
Of all places. He sounded so angry about the fact that he got hired by Liberty University.
I mean, it was quite something.
Oklahoma has a stout defense, and Auburn is a dumpster fire coached by a narcissistic shit for brains. He's not wrong, the former president. I, for one, appreciate the fact that in his I won't say his dotage, but in his old age, is perfectly willing to pass judgment on those who are deserving of such. What I also appreciate about the former president is that he never looks back.
Yes.
He took a tough one last week at Illinois-Nebraska game. Makes no mention of it whatsoever.
It's as if it didn't exist. Like he just moves on.
Yeah. So 2-2 needs to get over 500 with a win this weekend. Taking Oklahoma. Good luck to you, Mr. President, and Godspeed as you approach your 100th birthday. You've been listening to Cast Iron Balls, a podcast with Bob and Abe. It's about sports. Lori is here too. You can find more from us at the website brainiron.substack.com. You can also head over to tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com for more from Mark Gillig, who composed our opening and closing themes. Abe, any other sports content you consumed this week that you'd like to talk about now?
Yeah, a couple of stories just this past week. One, the current head coach for the Detroit Lions with Super Bowl aspirations. If you recall, last year in the NFC title game, they lost to the 49ers. There were some fans that were upset by that loss. One of them was a classmate of one of Dan Campbell's daughters. I don't know how many kids he's got, but a classmate of hers leaked the address where the head coach lives. And a lot of Lions fans made the trip over, and they're harassing them or doing whatever. They made them feel unsafe to the point where they had to sell the home and buy a new home at an undisclosed location. And this high school kid got like no punishment because I guess it's not technically illegal to share information that's readily available.
Undisclosed yet.
Yes, right. At this point, it's going to be disclosed, right? If they lose to the Niners in the playoffs again, that information will get out. So I just thought that was amusing. Like, these kids are such little shitheads that they would release this information because, I don't know, they had money on the game or they're just upset by the outcome.
It's the sort of thing that is almost certainly easily attainable to anyone, even without some shithead doing the legwork of tweeting it out. But not something you should do, just as a general rule.
And the other story is that Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre was at a congressional hearing about how he was part of
you're burying the lead here, Abe. I don't see why you wouldn't lead with the fact that the poor man has Parkinson's disease.
Okay, so
you sick bastard. Are you suggesting that he let rip his Parkinson's diagnosis as a way of perhaps garnering some sympathy or deflecting from his not even crimes?
What
I would ask you this:
crimes? All I heard about was Parkinson's.
You know, if you were like, it's unfortunate that anyone has Parkinson's, and I hope he does well in his recovery. You can't recover from it, right?
No, he won't do well
on his journey.
And he's like just in his 50s, right? So it's not like I guess you can get Parkinson's at any age, but like that seems kind of young, right? 50 something.
Yeah, I assume it's because I assume that it's all of the brain injuries.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, because Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's, right?
Yes.
So, like, is there we haven't talked, I don't mean we three haven't talked about it. I mean, I haven't heard people talk about a link between, like, CTE and Parkinson's.
Right.
Maybe now's not the time to start talking about it, because I got to go to bed.
But I wonder if there are other examples where they can, maybe one more story like this, and people are like, maybe there's a connection. But I will just say this. It is unfortunate for Brett Favre to divulge this information. This is a standalone news story. You should not use your diagnosis as some sort of cover against your scheming ways. Like, you should just have a separate news story about, like, by the way, I got Parkinson's. But it speaks to his, I don't know. I'm going to leave it alone. It's not a good thing to do.
So what Abe is saying, Lori, is that, and I could play the clip, maybe I'll drop the clip in here in the edit, but he is testifying before Congress because of this scheme that he was involved in, where like they were trying to build a new volleyball arena or something.
Where his kid goes to school.
Abe is super into this, I can tell.
To where the daughter goes to school, and where, did he go to school where all this was going on? Was this at...
I think maybe. That's a good point. I'm not sure.
I don't know, whatever. He was trying to get a volleyball thing done, and they took in a bunch of money, and then like there was some embezzlement of funds here, and it's not entirely clear. Like it seems like he was just another dupe along the way.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Brett Favre purposefully did crimes here, but the reason that it is untoward for him to bring it up in the way that he brought it up is that he was testifying before Congress about these shady volleyball dealings, and then he's like, "Oh, and not that this is an excuse or anything, but also I've got this brain disease."
No,
So,
I was kidding when I said
gross.
that's a take to not use your brain disease to get out of crime.
By the way, quick Google. Multiple studies have found that a single concussion can raise a person's risk of being diagnosed with Parkinson's by more than 55%.
Wow. So there is already an established connection. Wow.
I mean, it's not surprising that like bad shit happens to your brain and then more bad shit happens to your brain later. That sort of correlation makes a great deal of sense.
Yes. Anyways, all the best to Brett Favre, but just wrong venue to bring that up.
Also, I think it's a bit of a Streisand effect, which is that I don't think that Brett Favre testifying before Congress in the current news environment would have made major headlines everywhere, except for the fact that he announced that he had Parkinson's. So that he should have had his testimony before Congress. Maybe it gets a 10-second mention on the evening news or something, and everybody moves along. But because you've now announced that you have Parkinson's, that becomes the story. Now it leads fucking everywhere. And then people like you and me are kind of grossed out by the fact that you tried to cover up your shady volleyball dealings with your Parkinson's diagnosis. Like all of it is bad by Favre and his people. Although I don't think Favre has people. I think he just does what Favre wants to do, and it's often dumb. Also, I saw a very ghoulish headline in reaction to this, which is that the chick who he sent dick pics to back in the day.
Oh, Jen Sturger.
It was like Jen Sturger says that she doesn't fucking care that Brett Favre has got brain diseases.
That is remarkable, isn't it? Now, I can't speak for her experience, but you know, people always say, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Like, nobody ever actually means that, because, like, the slightest thing that goes wrong, like, well, fuck you, you deserve it. Like, here's karma fucking you, or whatever. Like, as soon as something goes wrong, people are like, it served you well.
Yeah.
I want to play quickly before we go here, unless, Abe, you have any other...
No, those are my... Yeah.
All right. So, because Georgia is playing Alabama...
Brandon Kutu.
We're going to go back to September 22nd, 2007, in the middle of overtime between Georgia and Alabama. The score is Georgia 20, Alabama 23. And this famous moment in not the rivalry between Georgia and Alabama takes place.
I have an important question. Go ahead. What is Brittany doing with her life? Who? Brittany. Brittany who? Spears. What is she doing with her career? Why do we care at this point? Is she here? I don't think so.
Insane thing
just
to
an
say.
all-time moment in sports broadcasting history.
Was this around the time where she was shaving her head? Like, what prompted?
I think probably it is roughly the time that she's shaving her head.
He was so thrown off. Like, who are you? Like, Britain. Like,
Georgia is about to get the ball in overtime, currently losing in 2007. We end up winning this game, granted, but like, what are you doing, guy?
What are you talking about?
Hopefully we get something that good from our announcers this week.
No, we won't get anything good.
If I don't know who's on this call. I assume it must be Herbie and Chris Fowler.
Yeah, this is like the marquee game, right? It should be them.
The big game. If I'm Fowler and Herbie, I don't know that I can resist. I mean, this is the last time Georgia went to Alabama in the regular season. No?
No, we played them in COVID.
Well, whatever. Close enough. It's been a long time. I would not be able to resist making some sort of like, what is Katy Perry doing with her career? Have you heard Woman's World? What a disaster.
You don't remember 2020 because we lost 24-41.
Yeah. You know the last time Georgia lost a regular season football game?
I do. Wait. Shh. We lost Florida 2020.
Florida 2020 was the last time Georgia
Really?
lost a regular season football game.
We were in Disney
You know
World.
why I'm on the dogs minus 2.5? Because we haven't lost a fucking regular season football game since Jacksonville.
We also haven't played
first
Alabama
year of
since
COVID.
before that. So
That's remarkable.
The
haven't
last
played Alabama during the regular
and the
season.
week and a month before that or whatever, we lost to Alabama also.
Yeah.
So 2020 was the last time we lost regular season football games. That's how long it's been. Fucking bonkers.
Well, and we hadn't lost a game in so many record games until we played them last year.
I don't have a feel for this game, but I am fucking supremely goddamn confident that Georgia's going to win this game. Let's fucking go. Let's not have an emergency podcast.
We're not going to.
Saturday night.
But look,
That
I
will
like
be-
my comment here.
That'd be a really fun, way too drunk podcast.
No.
though,
I'll
I
be
imagine.
way under the beer for that.
Super wasted.
Be the worst podcast.
It'd be so good. No edits. Just fucking do it live, straight to YouTube. Never look
Do
at
we
it
have
again.
the capability to do that?
Yeah, we can go live on YouTube whenever we want.
Will it sound like shit though?
I don't know. I think it would be okay.
No, let's not do
We should
that.
definitely do that for the playoffs. Like when we get to the playoffs.
Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later.
Are you meeting up with anybody, or are you just
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to the
just,
bar on your own?
The usual crowd just getting together and watching it. The weather should be very clear.
They
and
put
the-
up. They put up with going to a Georgia bar, given that you're
I mean,
like.
I put up with their Georgia Tech occasional, like usually people don't like Georgia because like usually that's when we hang out because those are the good games. But like
Right.
every once in a while there'll be like a Georgia Tech game like earlier this year. So like this should count for the next 2 years worth of Georgia games.
Yeah.
So should be good.
I'm utterly mystified by that Oklahoma line.
It is, yeah. But again, they must know something, right? I don't know what it is.
I mean, I just can't imagine that the Auburn kids want to play for fucking Hugh Freeze anymore. Like, it would be, to me, if it were all coming from outside the program and, like, he's like, it's us against the world, boys, then maybe you can imagine you can take a bad team and fight for the home guys or whatever. But, like, he not only that clip that we played last week and the coaches show a day later, he like doubled down on the position.
Right.
Like,
I'm not changing anything.
yeah, he's like, no, I don't regret anything. Those guys fucking suck at football. It's not my fault. I mean, it's not exactly what he said, but like that was the sentiment. So how does he get these fucking idiots to play football for him anymore? I don't get it.
What a fucking asshole that guy is.
I'm so utterly convinced that he's the first SEC coach out at this point. Like
Yeah.
Billy Napier has never been safer in his job than after Hugh Freeze starts doing what he was doing.
Unless they somehow pull it out this week. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Oklahoma shits the bed and they lose, even though they shouldn't. And then he keeps his
man.
job forever.
Uh-oh.
Giants keeping it close, 17 to 12. 17 to
God.
12.
Bullshit.
Look at these stats.
I don't understand what's going on. Why does this keep happening? Like, it's so obvious the Cowboys should win. And
Dak
they're not.
Prescott. This is a symptom of what we've been talking about. Ooh, a fourth down conversion by the G-men. Let's go. Although they haven't gotten in the end zone yet today, so they're going to need to kick a bunch more field goals.
Wow.
Dak Prescott, 19 of 22 for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns. Daniel
You have to
Jones,
say goodnight to the kids.
25 of 29 for 269 yards. Those are fucking bonkers completion percentages for these bums. Whereas the rushing is 6 carries for 25 yards for the Cowboys and 12 carries for 25 yards for the Giants.
Well, that neighbor's kid is doing all right, the receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fucking rules is why. Anyway, all right, we should say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Later.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.